What up, man? I'm DD, and this is DD Got a Point, one of the newest yet fastest growing YouTube channels on the platform. The goal is to be up 10,000 subscribers by next month, 50,000 subscribers by the summertime, and 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Yes, you heard me correctly. It is a reality, but it is only a reality if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're rocking with the video. Thank you all so much for your help. Now let's get into the video. Public service announcement. The Los Angeles Clippers are official title contenders. Not only that, I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to say that the Los Angeles Clippers are probably my favorites to come out of the West, only behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. The reason why it's a public service announcement, because a lot of you all may have been watching the Clippers a lot longer than I have, but for some reason they've been flying under the radar, probably because the West is so stacked and it's so competitive and there's so many teams you could go with. I'm taking the Clippers only behind the Thunder. Over the last 10 games, the Clippers are 8-2. They're averaging about 120 points per game. Kawhi Leonard, who is looking like Kawhi Leonard Jordan, is averaging 26.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. But even more so, this man is shooting, wait for it, 56.3% from the field, 50% from three-point range, and 87%, so almost 90% from the free throw line. Kawhi Leonard is back. And for those of you who don't know, Kawhi Leonard is my favorite player in the league, only behind Nikola Jokic. He was my number one favorite player for like the last 7 or 8 years. The only reason why it changed is because he hasn't been available, right? It's hard for you to be my favorite player if you're not playing. You know what I mean? But I've always rooted for him. And on this channel, Kawhi Leonard, Derrick Rose, Anthony Davis, it doesn't matter the player. We will not bash players for being injury prone. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. The only way you can criticize a player is if it was something that they could have done more in the weight room. And Kawhi Leonard quite literally has a reputation of being a gym rat. So if you're going to be like a Stephen A. Smith or somebody else who gets on television and say that he's the worst superstar of all time because he's never available, he doesn't do more for the game other than playing, we're not doing it over here. Kawhi Leonard is an incredible player. You can't help if you're getting injured, bro. You want to play. And when he's healthy, I mean, he consistently shows us what he can do on the basketball court, which makes it even more silly and funny when you have a player like Paul George who left the team essentially because the Los Angeles Clippers was not willing to pay him the same salary or the same contract as Kawhi Leonard. What have you accomplished that is that of a Kawhi Leonard? This man has won multiple championships. He's been the Finals MVP twice. He's been Defensive Player of the Year twice. He's averaged more points than you. He's been a dominant force. He's been in the argument and the conversation of best player in the league before. He's been definitively the best defender in the league for multiple years throughout his career. Paul George, that's not you, bro. But I digress. Over the last 10 games, James Harden has averaged 28 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Norman Powell, who also won a championship with Kawhi Leonard in Toronto, who I've always been a fan of his game for a very long time. I've always said he just needs to be with the right team to be able to flourish so that his skill set can be put on display for the whole world to see. And over the last 10 games, over the season, he's averaged 24 points, 42% from that's crazy. He's averaging almost 43% from the three-point range. His true shooting percentage is 60%. Which is the highest of his career. I mean, he wasn't selected as an all-star this year, but just like Jamal Murray, we know that they're all-star caliber. Except I would argue that Norman Powell is much more consistent than Jamal Murray. And then the Clippers defense, while averaging 120 points per game over the last 10 games, the Clippers have held their opponents to an average of 104 points per game during this stretch. Now look, my personal opinion, there are two things that are stopping the Los Angeles Clippers internally. That is number one, obviously, the elephant in the room is Kawhi Leonard's health. If he can stay healthy, they've been load managing him throughout the year, throughout the season, which I know a lot of people aren't a fan of that. I'm not necessarily a fan of it either. But when the goal is to win a championship and you have a player that you've tried over the past 4 or 5 years and it's just not working, he can't stay healthy, something always go wrong at the worst timing. If you're Ty Lue and the Los Angeles Clippers, you're load managing your best player. And as much as I want to see him play, I support it. I 100% support it because we want to see him in the playoffs. We want to see him healthy. So his health is the first thing that's going to plague them and what they're trying to avoid. And I believe he's averaging like 36 minutes over this stretch, which is a whole lot for Kawhi Leonard. So I think Ty Lue is watching that very, very closely. I think even though he's averaging 36 minutes per game, I think he's sat out like a game or two here and there to try to just like decrease the chance or the likelihood of him getting injured, of course. But the second reason is James Harden, who you could argue has been their best player. Well, he's definitely been their best player, their most consistent best player. He's definitely the leader. He's the ball handler. He's the orchestrator on the floor. But James Harden, at the end of the day, which, by the way, one of only 3 people, that being James Harden, Luka, and Nikola Jokic, to have a 60-point triple-double. We know what James Harden is. They're even having a debate right now as to who's greater of all time, who's better of a player, James Harden or Dwayne Wade. And I'll let you all debate that in the comment section. But James Harden in the playoffs, which I think is definitely going to hurt his case for that argument as to who's better, him or Dwayne Wade, is his play in the playoffs. James Harden has put up numbers here and there, but he's choked. He's historically choked. We all know what they missed, like 27 straight three-pointers against the Warriors a few years ago. I mean, he's come up short. Yes, he had to go against that juggernaut of a Warriors team a couple of years back-to-back. But outside of that, like, he's just never been able to make it to the finals. Outside of making it to the finals with the Thunder, I believe in like 2014 or whenever it was when they played against the LeBron James Miami Heat team. But I'm just fearful that James Harden is going to get into playoffs and he's going to rely on that low percentage step back three-pointer. He's going to foul bait. And even though they can help you if he's on the team that you're rooting for, I think it could also hurt you because he has a tendency to over-rely on trying to draw fouls and even trying to draw fouls on three-point shots instead of making the right play, actually just trying to score the ball, make the right pass, find the right open man. That's the biggest thing. But I believe Ty Lue understands this, and I believe once the playoffs hit, there's a strong chance that Ty Lue is going to put the ball in his hands a lot more so that they're not over-relying. But the Clippers are really deep. You know, obviously, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac. I can never really pronounce his name correctly. Who I've also been a fan of, which, by the way, Kendrick Perkins keeps saying he's a top 10 big in the league. As if that's something to say. Name 10 big men in the league.
Pre-game, Coach Ty Lue was asked about the way Zubac has emerged as of lately and talking about being able to play through him as a hub, the way he's been able to get to the glass, defend. Norman Powell is healthy, is back in the lineup.
Top
like
10,
James Harden,
top 10 big in the league.
Like, we're not living in a time, in an era right now where there is 10 solid big men that's averaging 20 and 10. I mean, we just don't have that in our league like that right now, man, especially with Joel Embiid being out. And I don't consider Giannis as a big man. But nonetheless, Zubac has been playing incredible, man. I'm so proud of his growth. I'm so proud of where he's come. He's come a long way. And he's playing with a person, a point guard, whatever you want to call him, in James Harden, who's going to find him for lobs, who's going to find him in the paint. I mean, that's one thing James Harden has a reputation of doing. He's going to get in the paint and he's going to throw some lobs. And last night they played the New Orleans Pelicans without Zion Williamson. So it's not like it's the most impressive win. But man, they beat them 114-98. Really impressive game. I mean, look at that lineup, man. Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, Zubac, Chris Dunn, James Harden, Bogdanovich from the Atlanta Hawks. That is going to be their secret weapon. Like, this is why I'm saying that they can make it to the finals. They have a legit shooter in Bogdanovich. One of the most lethal shooters, has one of the prettiest forms, in my opinion, in the league. They're being slept on, bro. Derrick Jones Jr., who just came off a finals appearance with the Dallas Mavericks, and Luka Doncic. Nicholas Batum, a veteran. Ben Simmons. I know Ben Simmons, we all can admit it, has been a disappointment. He's been very underwhelming in his career. It all started from the layup that he gave up against the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs last year. We all understand that. But if you got a person like Ben Simmons coming off your bench, I mean, he can give you a solid, 10 to 12 points, 7, 8 assists at the very least. And he can play some solid defense. And I've always been a huge fan of Patty Mills. I know he hasn't played a whole lot, but I've been a fan of him since Kawhi Leonard became my favorite player in the league when they played incredible basketball with the San Antonio Spurs many years ago and lost to the Heat one year and then came back and beat the Heat the next year. The biggest threats to the Los Angeles Clippers, number one, is definitely going to be the Thunder, which I need to make a video on the Thunder, and that video is coming soon. And I'm going to rave. I'm going to talk about if I feel like they should go for 70 games, which, by the way, y'all up in the comment section, let me know if y'all feel like they should go for 70 games. Talking about the career, I've spent so much time talking about Nikola Jokic on this channel that I really need to spend an adequate amount of time talking and raving about SGA. What he's done with that team, one of the youngest teams in the league, they already have the best record in Thunder history. And I'm going to make the argument in that video, whenever that video comes, that this is the greatest Thunder team in the NBA history. Yeah, it's better than the Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook years. All of them. This is the best Thunder teams we've ever seen. And the Clippers going up against them, I'm literally salivating for the playoffs this year. Like, it's been a while since I've salivated for the playoffs like I am this year. Because there are so many teams that could beat one another. As much as I'd love to say the Nuggets are number 2, I'm giving it to the Clippers, man. Because the Clippers are deeper. They have more solid players, more reliable players. They have more players on their team that can score off the ball. That can create their own shot. I would say that they got 3 players that can create their own shot. That being James Harden, obviously, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell. And you really can make the argument for a couple of other players as well. But those are 3 solid people that can create their own shot. My thing with the Thunder is, yes, I'm putting them heads above and shoulders above everybody else in the Western Conference. I don't think experience necessarily hurts them, because people always say that, but when a team wins the championship for the first time, you a lot of them don't always have 10 years, 7, 8 years of getting beaten in the playoffs every year. Sometimes it's that team's first run in the playoffs. It happens sometimes. But my ultimate thing is, last year against the Dallas Mavericks, obviously the Thunder came up short. And SGA was the most reliable on their team, but everybody else seemed to like shrink a little bit under the lights. So I'm just curious to see how they're going to bounce back and make that adjustment in the postseason. The second team I would say is the biggest threat to the Clippers. I'm torn and I'm back and forth between the Lakers and the Nuggets. I don't know which team I want to go. I just think the Rockets are, it's not just that they're young. I don't think they have that solid piece that can give you that consistent 35-40 piece whenever it's needed. Jalen Green is on his way, but he's not quite there yet. That Thompson twin brother, he's not quite there yet. They got a solid defender in Dylan Brooks whenever he can stop getting suspended for assaulting people. But I just don't think they're quite there yet. I don't think they have quite enough, especially for Kawhi Leonard. There is no Kawhi Leonard stopper in the league, as we all know. And then with the Nuggets, man, I just obviously Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. He's a matchup nightmare for anybody. Especially you got to know that when he's putting up 60-point triple doubles against the 4-time defensive player of the year that's like 7 feet 6 inches tall. And then you can never count Luka and LeBron out. You just can't count them out. And I have a feeling that Luka is not only Devin Booker's daddy, so to speak. I don't know, man. He may have it out for SGA and a couple of these other teams. A lot of folks do not want to see Luka, bro. And the Clippers is one of them. If I'm Kawhi Leonard, I don't like my chances against Luka. Luka has torched them in the playoffs. He's averaged like a 30-point triple-double against the Clippers in the playoffs. I don't want to see the Lakers if I'm the Clippers. But I'm still going to put them over because they have a better, well-rounded team, in my opinion. Y'all up in the comment section, give me your thoughts. Let me know what you feel. Who do you think are the top teams in the West to make it out of the West? Do you feel the same way about the Clippers? How do you feel about Kawhi Leonard? I'm Demetrius. I go by DD. That's all for this one. Until next time. Peace. Oh, yeah. DD got a point.